Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew, Supercharged Stocks. Middle of April, spring is here. It's beautiful out in Vancouver. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. Good morning, Austin, who's sitting across the table from me.
Pretty nice, hey? Nice to be with you actually here, able to talk about some stocks, and yeah, it'll be good.
Finally in the same room. Very good. Wonderful. Before we talk about anything, though, I just wanted to mention something that came out on the news, didn't come out on the news on Friday, which was the PPI numbers that were strangely overlooked by all media, which had the numbers up. Now, I'll take a step back. Most of these CPI, PPI, inflator are nonsensical. But if you were one to believe them and believe the numbers they put out, it went up 100%. So that's not, I guess, news they want to put out there right now. And I believe the food and energy sector went up 3 times more than what they thought.
It's something ridiculous like that. Like, I don't know what to make of this stuff. Maybe you have a take on it. That, I mean, for me, it's always been something that, you know, it was talked about, but it's not even guys that in my age group or my circle even look at anymore. So
yeah, it's funny. The best explanation I've seen lately for inflation is actually Michael Saylor, who's a big Bitcoin advocate and promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of puts it in the context of what is your expectation in life?
Right.
Like if you're just going to live with friends and in a small apartment and play video games until 60, then there's no inflation.
Yep.
It's very low because you can still buy games for relatively the same price. You can buy a laptop for the same. So there's certain products that are at the same price.
Right.
If you intend on owning a home, then you jump up drastically high. Maybe the inflation is 20% then.
Yeah.
Because now you have to pay for energy, you have to pay for heat, you have to pay for things yourselves. If you want to own a home or apartment in a big city, now you jump up another very large high amount. So it's a more of a reflection on what your expectation and hopes out of life are than anything else. So that's a controversial way of looking at it, but that's the closest one I could look at today, is that if your hopes and ambitions and expectations are higher, then there's a runaway inflation number. And a good way of looking at it too is at the markets or at Bitcoin or at gold, at any of these things, wherever you want to formulate it on, those things will be doing outstandingly well. And if you're not in them, you're not meeting the expectation of growth of this massive influx of trillions of dollars that they're pouring into the market.
Right, exactly. And so I think that's maybe where the disconnect happens, is you have like people who I don't know why they don't look at it objectively like that, but aren't putting it into that context. And I think that's maybe an important context to try to relay to people, is that this is the way you need to look at it. This is the angle you need to look at it from.
Yes.
Because it's going to affect you if you care about X, Y, Z, any of these things, or unless you really do just want to, hang out in your apartment playing video games forever.
Some of you do. But anyways, that's not the show. Today is Desert Mountain Energy.
Yes, and Desert Mountain Energy has been on a hell of a run lately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. They've been pumping out exciting news. The stock has been soaring. Like I think I said a few weeks ago, I didn't know helium was rocket fuel. And I meant that in a take of saying I didn't know that helium was going to power this stock to the moon the same way that GME got powered to the moon a couple of months ago. So I wanted to talk to you kind of about what was your process of looking into this company, what got you interested in them in the first place, and how has that journey gone from when I think you first started working with them? Was it April?
Yeah, it's almost just over a year.
Yeah,
about a year. And I was introduced to Erwin Olean, who was the founder of the company, or one of the founders, and was able to speak with him. And my first question was, what most people are is, helium, like party balloons? Like, is this really a thing?
Yeah.
Like, are we really having a crisis over party balloons? Because I've never even thought of it. So it didn't take long. And Erwin is the type of person where he's brilliant. He's had a lot of success, a lot of wins in his life, and he's able to find these unique areas and circumstances and events, and then he can strategize, bring money together, put a company together, and find the right team to put in place, and then he walks away. So I was able to meet Erwin. He gave me the lowdown and said, hey, listen, here's what helium's used for. It's high-tech gas. You need it for MRIs. You need it for fiber optics. You need it for computers. You need it as a high-energy coolant for data processing. So all of your data storage areas, even when you hear about Bitcoin, being in Norway or Sweden or colder countries or up in Greenland, it's because they needed them cooled down at a massive rate.
Right. Yep.
Helium gas is often used. So there's this need for this push toward this innovative new 5G connected future we see. And one of the things I always like to remind people is that not only can you not have a cryptocurrency or Bitcoin mining without actual mining, you also have to have helium to cool these processors down because chips will melt.
Well, exactly, yeah. If you don't have something that's the rate the computers are working at now, even your basic, even your laptop, for example, it is pumping out so much more than any computer was even 10 years ago. It's got such a higher computing power, and you need to keep the chip, the processor, everything that's built into it cool in order for it to function at that rate. When you take that to the level of Bitcoin, it's an insane amount of processing, an insane amount of computing that gets done by that computer. And they're going to melt within minutes if you don't have something built in structurally to cool them down.
And it is that striving for a bigger, faster, stronger, smaller.
Right.
And the smaller you make things, the more impact, more energy it has. I've literally melted my graphics card before. So it happens. I mean, it isn't funny. It's sad.
It is. It's terrible. It's rest in peace graphics card. So you got involved with them in April, obviously meeting Erwin and talking to him. And then we noticed mid-July to August of last year, the stock takes a little bit of a jump at that point. So what was kind of going on then?
So, once again, it was a hard, we put out a helium report. So I wanted to take a step and say, listen, here's what I've learned about helium. Why would anyone be interested? Because I thought this is going to be a bit of a longer pull. It's hard enough to get a lot of people really excited and jacked up about mining. Right. A little bit easier today than it was a year ago or 2 years ago. So I put out a report called the Helium Report, and it walked through what the situation is, going from federal lands to privatization, the demand soaring for helium over the past 3 years, and it doubled in price. So there's this huge curve of supply and demand, story being kind of developing and creating, but also was really honing in on where do we use this? Like, why do we need it? Because once again, everyone I would talk to go, are you
helium? You mean I'm going to suck the air out of it and it's going to make my voice sound all funny?
Fill canisters and So as soon as people got away from that and started to realize, oh, wait a second, okay, no, I get it. That's interesting. For people who are interested in the market, they're generally curious people, is that the light switch goes on and it's like, oh, this is interesting, because it's part of that kind of market model mindset that I always look at, is that I want to own the component pieces. I want to know what makes Tesla, what's the interesting parts, what's the parts that are more important than others than necessarily the final product.
Right.
I know Apple does lots of really cool things, or whatever piece of technology. It's great, it's neat, but I'm more interested in what's the foundational underlying, strength.
The building blocks, right?
Yeah, the foundation, the building blocks. So in there, it moved pretty quickly, because we're talking, it was at 20 cents, 22 cents back in April, somewhere around there. And it moved up because they started announcing, listen, we're seeing some things in the wells, and they put out some gas releases. We're seeing gas. This is looking very optimistic. Pretty good move. I mean, once again, going from 20 cents to 36, but if you look at a year-long chart, not a huge move. Because once again, people are trying to adopt the idea of, okay, I see, I'm believing this, I'm seeing it. And it was then with the news release back, I think it was June 23rd through July, somewhere around there. And you can see the stock moving up in July to a high of 65 when they had that news release, and people were kind of, finally hearing about, okay, so this Arizona Holbrook Basin has, potentially a large amount of not only helium, but high-grade helium.
See, and that's what I was going to mention too, is it's important to think about, they're sitting on what could be a potentially very massive amount of helium in Arizona where they're set up. So that, as that news started to come out, then we see a nice rise in it. But then, it gets up, I think it was August maybe, it gets up and it's sitting there kind of just hanging out at like $1.70, something like that.
Well, just before that though, along that period of time too, was Robert Rolfing coming in.
Right.
So Robert's been with the company for ages and being a key driver in this. But like all things that Erwin's involved in, he picks the right team, and Robert's obviously the right guy, because we see where it's gone from there. An amazing background, him coming on board, a couple of directors, you see them building the team. So once again, you see this model taking shape of, do you have the right people? You've got the right share structure. You're starting to get some attention from people, and you've got the right people to go, okay, you're onto something. Can this management team deliver?
Right.
And quickly, yes. So it's, once again, nothing happens overnight. There's always a time period of adoption and getting people in place and getting going. So it wasn't until this next move up. So like you said, where they actually have results at the end of August, September, And that is fairly quickly. You can see here, I think it's August 20th. We're sitting at 67 cents still.
Yeah.
And there's been, about a month of kind of trading within range.
Mhm.
And then it's the jump up pretty quick, to the 9th.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say within a couple of days, it just goes right up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough because once again, you're talking about drilling, you're talking about gas, but very unique specific market. And people, who are in energy, we look at numbers going, well, what do these numbers mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's exciting, but from whenever we saw those results here, I knew that we were definitely sitting on something.
Yeah.
This is very good. Putting the news release out of what that high grade looks like, how much volume, all that, was also time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's lots of going back and forth as to what you can put in those, but it was at that point I saw, okay, yeah, this is happening.
There's something here. This is legitimate. It's got something going on. Yeah,
100%. And luckily I get to speak to management quite a bit. They're very open with me. And we did a number of interviews with Robert. We've done ones with Erwin before. They're all on YouTube. You can go check them out. And having Erwin explain to us how the company would be set up and how it worked, but having Robert come in with the technical ability, because once again, Erwin isn't the type that wants to run these types of company.
Right.
He doesn't have a background in this. Robert absolutely does. So having Robert come in and explain to people, this is what we're talking about. I mean, I've got 45 years of experience, and that initial along this longer curve here, and I know we're covering a lot of time and space here, but it was getting this message out of what does this look like? How's it going?
Mm-hmm.
What really happened was February 16th, and that was the new year because Robert and Desert Mountain Energy put together a big Zoom meeting,
mm-hmm.
and they had 122 people on it.
Right.
So it was well attended, and he basically laid it all out. And in there, it was just great because you could see he mapped out the year ahead.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're aiming for. Here's the milestones. Here's what you can check your box off. If we do it, we're going to be here.
Yeah.
This is what we're hoping. And once again, it didn't take more than a few days before, boom, you get the next big jump.
Yeah, exactly. You start to see it spike again. And I know that was around about the time that you last did an interview with Robert. And I remember watching that one. And I think I even mentioned it on the show one day when we were talking about it. I said, you can see in that guy's face that he is absolutely in love with what they're doing down there. He thinks this is a hell of an opportunity. He thinks that this thing could really, really get moving. So I'm assuming in that kind of AGM style shareholder meeting that they had, he conveyed a very similar message to that, and that would have got everybody involved extremely excited.
Yeah, that was a great meeting as well because I mean, it's no one's business who was on or in that meeting, but there was lots of interesting people asking great questions in that meeting. Obviously, very excited. And we were lucky to have Robert come on the show a couple of days after.
Yep.
I think it was, I'm going to get the dates wrong, but it was a couple of days before this big jump.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just such a fun interview. I mean, it's always great talking with Mr. Olafing anyway. But after the interview and I watched it, I just called a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of brokers. I said, listen, just watch any random 20 seconds of this interview that doesn't have me in it. So it's nothing about me. Just watch. Tell me this guy doesn't know he's onto something. It's like he's so pumped.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, anybody who kind of got back to me like, oh yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, because you can't fake that excitement.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you just see, just that he's so into this. This isn't just going to be a big win. Yeah. This is like a legacy. This is, a fully vertically integrated solution. It's not just, and I mean, say an exploration or hitting a gas well or finding a discovery of gold or cobalt or whatever. Those are very exciting and get a big run up.
Yeah.
And then generally people are going to sell that off.
Yeah.
And it's a great time. It's great. That's a big win.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the case. He is not letting it go. He knows he's got the tiger by the tail.
Yes.
And he wants to build this thing. So that's also a very different situation than trading or what's the play here is knowing that this model was we're creating an entire company that's going to be vertically integrated and deliver helium to end users.
Right. No, and I think that's what's been so important about this is you can tell sometimes you see guys yes, they're excited, they're selling you something, they can get behind the product that they're selling, but when it's that genuine actual excitement and actual motivation that you can see with anyone who's involved with this project. That's what makes it so exciting, and that's what creates the opportunity for then the most recent kind of spell of news and the most recent spike that we've seen out of the stock, where it has just gone parabolic.
Yeah, lately it's taken on a life of its own, and I mean, in part, there's a couple different things that have happened and a couple key people that are involved as well. Dr. Kelly Ward, who's a congresswoman in Arizona, is on the board of the company. And this has added a lot of oomph and firepower. Having any government official involved in a project goes a long way.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be regulations this, and there's going to be getting things passed and whatnot. She's a real spitfire. Regardless of your political affiliation, this is an amazing person to have on your board. She can get things done. And that clearly caught the attention of people too, because once again, it's just another step of going, oh, your milestones of getting towards government approvals and convincing government bodies that we're going to lift off. We're going to take care of this shift from where a lot of this helium was being supplied by government, of privatization, where we can meet the demand that's required, and we're going to do it. I can't speak to the company for this part, but I know already, because it's public news, that Taiwanese Semiconductor is going to be breaking ground in Arizona in 2021, this summer. Yeah. And they're a massive chip creator. They're going to be neighbors. So are they someone who has to use helium? Yeah.
They sure are, yeah.
Google's there. I believe there's going to be a number of other plants that are opening up in Arizona. It's a firebed state right now. There's so much happening there right now. And there are plenty of potential end users of helium. Yeah,
there's a huge opportunity for it that's continued to just grow even through the pandemic and stuff, with the massive demand that's evolved for helium and the need for its uses. And it's important then to mention, like when you were saying about Kelly Ward joining the board as well, having people in that political circle who can just take care of that aspect of things for you, who've been around, they've done that sort of thing, they've been involved in those circles, they know how to, okay, we need to get this regulation through, this is how we do it. Just to have that kind of extra force behind you is so important.
Yes. And part of this, it's all part of whether it was a Trump plan, a Biden plan, it doesn't matter. This innovation is happening. So you need to have people advocating for you to get things done. Like if the U.S. wants to be a major player, continue being a major player, then it has to work alongside with government to get things done. And it's a great sign. So that was a big factor. I know our friend Ellis Martin had also started talking to, and had an awesome interview too with Robert, which around the same time, which has really helped, because Ellis has a huge following in the U.S. especially, very well known. And we need people like that. Like, we need people to get the message out to people that this is real, it's required, it's needed. And that follows up with, just on the weekend, I think it was Saturday or even Friday, RT came out with an article that says smart money is betting on helium. So that's great.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's getting that kind of attention. It's now starting to break through into circles. To tie back into kind of my aspect of things, is now you see guys who would never be talking about this kind of stuff. People that I talk to about stocks, or people that are involved in the kind of Reddit sphere, the kind of new age day trader atmosphere, are now looking at this. Obviously, you can't ignore it anymore when you've seen a stock make the kind of jump that it has. Even when we just look at from when it went to $1.70 to what it's sitting at now, which I believe is around $4.40, something like that, which is insane. Yes. That's nuts.
That's 1 year.
That's less than 1 year, really, when you think about it.
So you think of that 2,000% move.
Yeah.
People talk about the move of Bitcoin, and yes, it's gone up 4 times, or it's kind of like, this is 2,000. This is a lot.
Yeah, you could have thrown $500 at this a few months ago, and you'd be laughing right now. So it's been a fantastic opportunity. And what I guess I'm kind of curious, like going back to kind of your history with like starting out at Merrill Lynch and stuff like that, would you have looked at a company like this? Would this have been how you would analyze a company, or is this a new philosophy that you put together?
So that's a very good question, because I would have liked to have looked at this type of stuff, but you would have been fired on the spot. So no, a lot of the stuff we had learned at Merrill was very specific. It was portfolio management. It was a lot of high-end, dealing with a client's whole asset base. This is very specific, speculative, venture cap investment. Right. Yeah. That was not something that encourage me to do in any way, shape, or form.
It was maybe a little more than frowned upon, perhaps you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of joke that if you even thought about trying to sell like a stock under $5, they would have fired you on the spot. So that was not their model, and they've got their own model, and that's great. I mean, whatever investment banker or fund or whoever you work for, they have their model, and you follow their model. I mean, they're not looking for more of the high flying cowboy type of thing that's looking for these, because this is a very unique period of time as well. So I want to take a step back and preface this is that I think because I've been looking at this for so long, and I saw what was happening just in mining, and I saw back when gold was 1,100, and I was trying to convince people to move their cash positions to gold.
Right. So
listen, if you're sitting in cash, it's nothing. It's worthless. You're not even getting 0.1%.
No.
If you're sitting in a GIC, it's completely worthless. You're just losing money. Your bank fees are more than what you're going to ever make. So why would you not put it into an asset that actually is going to move? Also, there was the fundamental problem of the chaos within not only structurally, socially, politically, everything else, is that we're in very trying times, and make no mistake, that hasn't stopped. That hasn't ended just because Biden won.
No, exactly.
That hasn't gone away magically, that we're all healing now.
It wasn't going to go away regardless of the outcome. There's still going to be this turmoil. It's going to be something that continues going forward as through the next decade. Yeah. It's not going to change. It's going to be something that people need to look at and adapt to, and realize that yes, there is going to be difficulties in the political climate and in business and in the way that we're going to have to see the world change over the next decade. But in that difficulty and in that challenge lies so much massive opportunity.
And that's it also ties into the inflation question, because we're seeing some of these companies run away. And if you're saying, I want to be part of the 5G smart city vision of the future, then your runaway inflation is massive.
Yeah.
Because the returns are massive. And believe me, those trillions of dollars being pumped in, those are being pumped into people that recognize this. The average person who's not paying attention to any of this, who's led by fear and just they're distraught with concern and worried about everything. Unfortunately, that's kind of part. My thesis is that's part of the play, is to keep mostly the masses worried, concerned over here, while this big, massive wealth shift is happening right under your nose,
and you're not going to be involved in it at all. Yeah,
and believe me, I'm not cavalier about someone entering a stock market, because it's kind of like, at this point, you're sitting down at a poker table. If you don't know who the sucker is, guess what?
Yeah,
you're the sucker.
Yes, exactly.
So there is some of that. And if you're going to play in the big board, and you're going to go, okay, I want to play with NASDAQ. I want to even go to GME, where it's a fun stock.
Yeah.
The GME story is so full of hedge funds right now doing this. Right, it's not even the Reddit guys are still in there. Yeah, but it's taken on a whole other life of its own, where it's smart money being used.
Exactly, like there's still some guys involved in it, but most of the key players in that, and I mean, not to say all of them, because there are still guys who love the stock and are going to ride with it because they think it's going to have another one of those massive shifts. But most of the kind of average guys who are looking at it are not. They're on to other stuff. They're looking at other things because they've realized, like, yes, you know what, that first little big surge that we got, that was awesome. It was great retail trader momentum, but it's not that anymore. If you don't think that there is huge hedge funds, big money on both sides of that involved now, then you're just joking with yourself.
And also there's a point where you have to ask yourself, it's part of, once again, your model and your mindset is what kind of stress can I take? What kind of volatility in the market can I take? A lot of people can't. It's very stressful. Yeah. And also in your model is, how much do I want to make on a stock? There's funds that are like, if we make 25%, we're out. Like, they don't even care if it's going to go up even more. They're like, no, we make 25%.
That's it. Yeah.
Next thing. And that's great, because that's their model. They don't get carried away. They don't love the stock and fall in love with it. I've definitely fallen in love with Desert Mountain Energy. I'm not selling.
Yeah, no.
So I can't ever legally tell you what to buy at or what to sell at. But let me just say, and there will be volatility. So I'm not
absolutely.
This is just going to keep on riding up like a rocket ship. Maybe it does. But this company, and Robert's very vocal about it, they're pushing forward.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in selling. Why would I sell something where I believe in the management? They've hit every milestone they said they're going to do. It's getting recognized now. There's the simple fundamental supply and demand not even being met. There's a requirement for demand on this.
Yeah.
It's critical to this whole future that everyone envisions, this high-tech future. You have to have this. not only that, it's then in a safe jurisdiction. It's in Holbert Basin in Arizona.
No.
The U.S. is going to control this asset, and this asset looks like it's going to be huge.
I don't have to go into the Congo to go get this.
And that's a great point. Not only do you not have to go to the Congo, which is a very harmful place. You see the devastation that happens there with artisanal or illegal mining. This is in the U.S. heavily regulated, done safely, done correctly, and vertically integrated. Because once again, transporting gas isn't the same as just the massive cost, especially in COVID, of saying, well, let's dump a bunch of cobalt from Congo, ship it over to the U.S. There's a big cost involved in it.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is going to be delivered directly. That's the hope. That's the big milestone. And we're going to see production, I believe, in December. That's what the hope is.
That's
so
awesome.
This year, we're going to see some production. Now, they're going to be drilling more wells, of course.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the numbers they have already, it's pretty phenomenal. I think the market cap's $290 million. I might be wrong.
Something along those lines. I think I had it pulled up here. 255 million right now. Yeah.
So there's a lot more room to grow.
Totally.
There really is.
And everyone involved, and then this kind of ties into another point that I wanted to bring up with you, but everyone involved is just, they're hammering down on this harder than ever before. They're not, like you said, you mentioned it with Robert, he's not selling. He has no intentions of this being the peak of this company.
No.
It's going bigger. It's going much larger. And the point that I was going to tie it back to is you and I were kind of just chatting yesterday about following the right circles and following the right people who are involved in creating this atmosphere. So I want to kind of get your take on that, how it ties back into your whole philosophy.
Sure. Well, because it's interesting. You see a lot of names that that like helium. So when I first met with Erwin, I went back to just kind of get my head wrapped around this. And lo and behold, who do we see but our friend Gianni Kovacevic had been on Kitco talking about helium, I believe, in 2019 at some point.
Yeah.
So I'd always loved Gianni for his copper talk and his whole belief and that fundamental thesis, which is proven correct, that he's been pounding on people for years. Like talking about in ahead of the curve. This guy's been in ahead of the curve. So when I saw him talking about helium, I was like, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
So I knew that. So that was great. And of course, we have a relationship with Gianni now with Copper Bank.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see someone who also sees a similar thing there. That's not only consoling and encouraging, it really kind of helps this. Like there's people that see this vision because they're in it all day long. I'm blessed that I get to look into this all day long. Most people can't. They've got other jobs. They've got to work. They've got kids. They've got family. They don't have the luxury of going, hey, I wonder what helium is. Like it has to be presented to them.
Exactly.
So having someone like Erwin, who's had a great track record, this all fits into this management. Has the management done things in the past? Have they met milestones? We talk about this in the market model mindset. Who's the smart money? Who's involved in this? And I know some of them. So I've talked with funds and family offices that are involved in the deal. So that gives another level of sophistication and realization that this is happening. When you have other people like an Ellis Martin coming on board talking about it, it opens up another big market of people that he's excited about it. He sees it. He's like, oh my gosh, this is great. And he's able to relay that onto a whole new market of people that look and go, well, helium, look. And that's what you need.
Yeah, you need people who are going to reaffirm that is the path forward. That when you start to see that stuff for yourself, and then you can look into, okay, well, this guy really likes this, and okay, wait, why does the guy who's super into copper also into the whole helium play?
Yes.
How do those things tie in together? And then you start to realize, okay, this is all making sense. This is the path forward that these guys have laid out, the vision that they've seen. And like you go back to Gianni's been talking about copper since probably before I was born. But as far as even getting involved in the helium space, to see that, and it's all sort of coming together at this right time. That's what makes it so exciting, not just from an aspect of Desert Mountain, but like helium in general is going to have such a huge opportunity going forward. Is there any other helium companies that you could say you might look at that someone might be interested in? Anything that's caught your eye?
Yes. So there is actually a company, I believe it's out of Saskatoon, Royal Helium. Now this, I haven't really looked at them a lot, but I know they exist and they're a Canadian company. So I'm always a fan of that. There's enough space to have a Royal Helium, to have a Desert Mountain Energy, both do exceptionally well.
No.
I am I would like to speak to the Royal Helium guys and hear what they have to say.
Mhm.
I don't work with them, don't have a relationship with them, although I do know Dean, who works with them. Funny enough, whenever I looked on their website, so maybe I'll reach out to Dean Nawada and say, hey, Dean, let's what's the story with Royal Helium? Tell me a little bit about you. Where do you think the pros and cons are different from what Desert Mountain's doing? I'm obviously, because I'm very open. This is one of my top picks with Desert Mountain.
Oh, we're all the way in on Desert Mountain. That's it.
I work with them. I bought the stock all along the way, so I'm a big fan. But that doesn't take away from Royal Helium. And even Robert says, hey, there's lots of room in here. There's lots of room for everyone to be successful.
Mhm.
So it's I want to give a shout out to them, because once again, it's someone else telling the story of helium, and that's the first step for anyone is, why do I care about copper? Why do I care about helium? Why do I care about any of these? Lithium.
Yeah.
Lithium's a little bit easier because people all know Tesla.
Exactly.
But it's just that first education level of trying to get people away from saying, listen, if you like this idea of innovation in tech, you don't only just have to go buy ARC. You don't only have to just buy Tesla.
Yeah, there are other opportunities. There are other ways that you can get involved with this, and much more exciting ways. You can go throw some money into ARC's ETF, which is fantastic. In my RRSP, I have no problem putting a bunch of money into ARC because I believe in it, because I know what Kathy and her team are doing down there. But for me, just looking at it objectively, trying to how am I going to make a little bit of cash here? Well, this is the side you want to get in on. These are the plays you want to be involved in, because they have the much greater capacity to move. You're not going to see ARC investments go up 2,000% in 6 months or 8 months.
No, and it's tough for them. And here's the great thing with ARC. I mean, she's amazing. She's great. And she'll map out her model. Mm-hmm. I mean, she talks about its energy, its innovation. It's the same stuff that I'm talking about. It's just she's got too much money.
Exactly.
She's got too much. She can't come into a Desert Mountain Energy. She can't come into any of these stocks. I mean, you can't take in $100 million into these companies. It just doesn't happen. So they have to look at certain types of companies that are more established and already built up. So, but that's fine. So you look and go, well, listen, I believe in Kathy's strategy. I think she's onto something. So if you're a smaller investor who wants a bigger possible hit to returns, and you want to get involved in this, then it's maybe the same model I have, is that, well, who's doing all the foundational things for these things? Like who's finding the copper? Who's
Tesla paying for to build their product,
Yes. Yeah. Where are they getting all of their component pieces from? Mm-hmm. Who's making it? How much do they need helium? Yeah, they do. So it's trying to figure out, okay, well, where's this, who's going to be supplying these big, huge drivers of the future? Who's going to be providing all the services, elements, minerals, and mining to Google, Amazon, all these other companies? Well, who's doing that?
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of saw there was a huge opportunity. And that, once again, talks into this product that we're going to have out soon, this market model mindset, is looking at why am I so excited about the market that I'm in? Mm-hmm. Why am I so excited about the model that we have that seems to be working? We've got lots of winners. And then why, it works for me because I made the product, so my mindset's totally in line with it. But it isn't for everyone. It's teaching people that you need to know what your emotional triggers are, because whether or not we're the most reasoned person in the world, fear and greed will start to dominate.
Totally, yeah.
Whether we're in Desert Mountain Energy at 20 cents and you go, oh, I need to get out.
Good Lord, I could say, I could make it.
I made a ton of money. But at the same time, you go, well, why would I sell this if the management is doing exactly what they said they're going to do? They're hitting milestones. They're telling you they're going to grow this thing. Yeah. They're still got lots of room to hit other wells. And they haven't even started producing. I just tell myself, just don't look at the number.
Yeah,
the management is still delivering, and they're not going to stop. Like they're not taking their foot off the pressure because of COVID. They had to a little bit, but they're pushing forward. They're driving forward, and until they start not hitting expectations and not hitting milestones, that's the only time that it gets my attention. Otherwise, you keep on reinvesting in this, because trying to find another Desert Mountain Energy is tough.
That's where the difficult part goes. Because those guys and everyone involved in that team is, yes, this is a huge win for them. Getting up over $4 is awesome, but they're looking over here. They're looking way over here as far as their strategy goes. And that's important to kind of tie it back into saying, when you have the belief system, you have what you're comfortable with, what you believe in, something you can even get excited about. That's the important thing about creating your own mindset, your own model for how you want to go about investing.
Yeah, and it's so exciting seeing a whole company being made, because it's very different than the model of we're building just a product that's eventually going to get bought by XYZ. And that's an exciting enough model, but it's different when someone says, no, we're actually going to build this. It's going to be a business. And maybe even and during the Ellis Martin's interview with Mr. Wolfing was maybe we're going to pay a dividend at some point. I mean, that's pretty exciting because you look at some of these other energy plays, gas plays in the past, and if you look back at Standard Oil in the Great Depression, and I've kind of likened what we're going through it now. It was about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago now, where I did a presentation talking about this as being the Great Depression, Roaring Twenties rolled into one.
Yeah.
And people saying that's a contradiction. It can't really happen. And it's exactly happening.
That's exactly what happens. It's that period of time is going to get condensed into a much smaller time frame. But when you look at the market analysis, you can look at the way certain companies are performing, the way the economy in general is built and structured. That's exactly what is starting to happen right now. And it's happening at such a more rapid rate than it was 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, we're talking about money is numbers that are staggering. So this is a unique period of time, and I always try to encourage people. Part of my mindset is that, listen, there's a lot of noise out there, and if you get wrapped up into it, you're going to be consumed by fear. It's going to be stress. It's going to be fear. And I know lots of people that are under a lot of incredible hardship right now, and it's very, very tough. I also know a very big handful of people that literally don't listen to any of that, and they're laser focused on the opportunities right now. And it's pretty obvious who's going to come out ahead, and it's going to look unfair. No doubt about it, because we're talking numbers that are huge and staggering. And because we have this global reach now, that gets amplified even more. So part of my mission is not saying, hey, we're right over here and anything else out, is just shining a light to say, listen, do you think I'm onto anything? Do you think Kathy Wood's onto anything?
Yeah.
Do you think, yeah, she is. So if you do, are there ways to invest that isn't just give Kathy some money over at ARC? No, there's tons. You can read her stuff and go, yes, for all of her innovation, she's going to need helium. Okay, you're also going to need all this copper. You're going to need lithium. You can start to see it all play out and go, oh, okay, wait a second. So who are the companies then? And who are the companies that don't have revenue? Because then it's a lot scarier. Because now we're not talking about a CFA and someone who's analyzing a stock and looking at all the numbers. It's, well, then how do I know whether this is the right crew? How do I know this management is good? How do I know? A little bit trickier. But that's where having this market model mindset is so important, is understanding where all those pieces come together and to find the projects and the management teams that can deliver.
Yeah, getting the right people involved, getting the right ideas involved, and seeing that all kind of come to fruition. It's scary in a way, but it's also incredibly exciting.
Yes.
And when you see, I mean, I'm glad we were able to talk about Desert and Mountain in such depth today, because when you see a company that does what they've done and hits the goals that they have, you start to go, okay, this is really working. This really makes sense. This is the right way to get involved in this.
Yeah, and I have people all the time, Andrew, when will you sell? When will you go out? Once again, I never can tell you. I'm not. But I can tell you this. It's not right now. It's nowhere too soon. I mean, it would take such an amazing, exponential growth.
Paradigm shift.
Shift, where I would just have to. But right now, no, because once again, it just comes back to the management's outstanding. They're building, they're growing, they're doing what they say they're going to do. There's more news coming. And it's awesome. And I can just go on and on and on. I've been rambling for 38 minutes. So I want to leave a bit of a teaser for people, because someone will go, oh, well, it's already had a bit of a run up. What's next? Okay, what's next is GasX, so NG Energy. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw that one out there, and you'll have to reach out to us to find out why.
Yes.
Or maybe look at some of our videos to see why does David think NG Energy is going to be going through the roof soon. And a couple other ones we're talking about, QU Media and Secure.
Yep.
Globex Data.
Great opportunities there. Great management teams. Yeah. They fit into that market. They fit into the model that makes sense.
Very unique products. Very
absolutely
specific, and have huge potential.
Huge potential and really exciting opportunities there. And then there's some interesting deals that are in the works as well that they've kind of hinted to.
This is all part of the very interesting thing as well, is that you build these relationships up with these people, and you start to realize, and I can't say what Erwin's up to. It's not my business, but is Erwin up to something?
He's doing something
right now. So if you want to find out about that as well, reach out to me, because whenever Erwin Olean is starting up something new, I told him flat out, if you are, please keep me in mind.
Yeah.
And he did.
I'm going to pay attention.
Pay attention. What are you up to? And that's very exciting because you get to see things. And funny enough, one of our friends too, Ellis Martin, he's up to something new as well.
No.
Once again, I'm not going to tell you, it's not my place, but you can reach out to us to find out.
Yeah, we can allude to what might be happening over there. But when you see these guys who have a track record and a history of building incredible companies with incredible success, you want to pay attention to what they're doing.
Yes, and it's like Ellis says, this business, especially at the Canadian venture level, it's all about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this long term, especially you as a young man, if you look at this where you'll be in 10 years or 20 years, it's way better than like 3 months, 6 months.
Oh yeah.
Is that you can build relationships that are rock solid, and you'll know you're in the right end. You'll have this team of people, and then you'll be able to deliver it and to provide investment opportunities to all sorts of people. And that's what this is all about. It's a relationship business, and you build it with the right people. And it's coming together for us. We've got lots of stuff coming out.
No.
Lots of interesting companies coming out. But I wanted to give out a couple free shout outs for ones that I think very quickly. QU Media, they've been hitting massive numbers. It might take a little bit longer, but this is a company that you can get it right today.
Oh yeah.
NG Energy, I'm talking very soon.
No.
So there's going to be things happening there quite soon. But Austin, I am running out of voice.
Yeah, well, we've rambled on much longer than we probably needed to, but that should just showcase how excited we are about this company, how excited we are about this space, how much we believe in this opportunity, and just how great it is. If we can get jacked up to talk about it for 40 minutes, I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know.
I used to joke that if I could make copper sound sexy, then I'm doing a good job. And I could be like floating because I'm jacked about helium. That's awesome. So thanks,
That's
everyone.
awesome. Yeah, fantastic. Always great chatting to you, Andrew. Always great to be with you.
Yes.
Finally, this is nice.
Here,
So,
in person. So wonderful. Thanks so much, Austin. Appreciate it. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and we'll talk to you again real soon.